So right now I'm going to show you how to tie this PR knot. It's probably one of the best knots I've ever used in my life, actually. Used it many years ago when we're fishing offshore all the time, and now we've brought it into our light line area for our brim fishing and our general estuary fishing. So what we've done here now is you've just got to thread the end of the line right there into the end of the tool. So what we do, put it in the tool till it pokes out this bottom end, pull it through, make sure we wind it around the bobbin a few times. Once we get it on a couple of times, then we just hold the cotton or the braid, pull a bit through, and then we will continue to wind it on. You want to put a fair bit on because we're going to put a lot of tension on this later on when we tie the knot. So we like to make sure there's a little fair bit on there. I'll probably go around 15 times or so. So there you go. So you can see now that I've put it all on there. It's ready to go. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to set the tension. So I'm going to hold the line, and I'm actually going to pull the bobbin down a little bit, and that seems to be a little bit firm. So over here we've got a tension dial. We're going to release a little bit of tension. We're going to try it again. Still feels a little bit too firm. Release a bit more. Starting to feel a bit better. A little bit more. That feels good. Feels about where we want to do. Now, tension is extremely important when you're tying this PR knot on light line. If it is too tight, you put the knot under too much stress and you have too much twisting happening through the mono line, which in the end will make that mono line braid. So now that we've threaded that on, we're going to pick up the SAS leader, pull a little bit off like so, and this is really, some people say, the hard part, but I think it's the easiest part of the lot. We put the two lines together to make the knot now. So we get the leader, braid, put them together. I wrap them around my fingers to hold them tight. Now, I don't have a big drop between here and here. That's about maximum I like to use, because I find when you have it too far down, you're doing too many twists, you'll end up putting too much twist in the mono leader, and that's not good for the knot. So now that we're at that stage, we lock everything in, and it's as simple as going around and around and around the mono leader like so. And you'll pull it down tight, and then when it gets to there, those twists that you're making go from big twists to smaller twists, and you must put pressure on the mono line in that direction, holding it tight. So between the two fingers you've got to pull it tight, because if you don't, what happens is as the bobbin goes around the mono, it will twist the mono instead of putting twists in the braid. You need those twists in the braid, that's most important. So we'll put a few more in, then we'll stop. And this is the point where we're going to change the knot over. When I'm doing this, I do it all in one motion, but I'm slowing everything down so you can see exactly what I'm doing. So at this point, once I've got to here, it's a good idea if you can just pull a little bit off, and you can actually just tilt it, and for those that are learning, it'll just spin back down on itself. Once it's spun back down on itself, then it's as simple as just going back around again. And all you're trying to do now is work your way back over the twists you've just put in, but make sure these are nice and close and nice and tight. Very important. And also make sure you hold that mono leader nice and firm between your two fingers, because if you allow too much slack into it, it'll twist up and become no good. So that's what you end up with. You can see it's all twisted around nicely now. And because it's light line, we don't need to do 1,000,001 twists like we used to do with our heavier line all the way up. I find that 2 centimeters is more than enough. So now I release all the pressure off everything, and I tie it off. So I pull a bit out of the bobbin, and now I'm going to tie it off. It's as simple as a few hitches in the end. You go one way, and then you go the other way. You pull it down, you go back. Some people will, and I'll admit there's been times where I have too, if I'm fishing super light like 2 pound braid and 2 pound leader, I'll even put a dab of super glue on this, because with your heavy line, what we usually do is when we cut the tag ends off, what used to stop a lot of it from slipping through was that we burnt with a lighter the end of the mono line. So now I've cut that tag off, and I've tried to cut that tag off as close as I can. You just leave a little tiny bit on. I always leave a little tiny bit on because I'm just going to pull that line a little bit and see how it is. That feels pretty good there. Now I'm going to cut the mono tag off the opposite end. Now this is the end that a lot of people with their light line make the mistake of cutting it too close and then trying to burn it. Because this is such light line, I don't cut it quite so close. I leave it so that it's got a little bit of a tag still. You know, you don't need a lot of tag, but just a tiny little bit there. I just find it's much easier and more confident, because there's always going to be a little bit of slippage somewhere when you pull it down tight. And once you pull it down tight, you'll have a nice little knot. Now, the big thing is, don't use a lighter and heat up and try and burn the mono tag. You don't need to with light line. If you tie it with the right amount of pressure, there's no need whatsoever to use a lighter. If you put a lighter near that now, or any heat near that, the line's so light that it's just going to break quite easily. So that's pretty much how we tie a PR knot, and that's about the length that we use, which, as you can see, is not that long at all. You know, it starts there and it finishes there. It's only about 2 centimeters maximum. That's all you need. You don't need to make them 5 and 6 centimeters long on these light lines. You've got plenty enough twist there to hold it, and I'll guarantee that when you learn to tie that knot, it's going to be the strongest knot you ever tie. I reckon they've got about 110% knot strength versus most other knots with only got 90%. It's my favourite knot, been using it for many years, and it'll never let me down. Good luck when you try. It'll take you a few times.